Hey, Mistakes listeners, this is once again Dave coming back at you with episode 6. This week we looked into Transformers Rescue Bots, and it's actually kind of fun, as usual. Glad to be back from vacation, and we recorded this episode on July 15th, 2015. Away we go. Oh my word! So I've got a parenting dilemma for you.
I'm excited.
I don't
Well,
know. Yeah, what are you excited about?
I like challenges.
It's true, and I'm seeking the elder parent here, right?
Oh, thanks.
Right?
Thanks a lot.
How much older are you? You're like what?
We're the
You're
same
like
age.
50, 52, right?
We're the same age.
Oh, is that true? You're
Yeah,
43? Since
Yeah,
when?
it just feel because we've always been the same age. We're pretty close. It just
So,
feels like I'm the older parent because I have children who are slightly older than your children.
oh, is that true?
Yeah, slightly. Well, Kaylene's 6, right?
Yes. I have a 6 and I have a 3.
Yeah, you have a
Is that
6'3", and
right?
I have a 17, 14, and 11. So
That's
there you
good,
go.
That's good.
Okay,
Okay, so
what's your dilemma?
here is my dilemma. So I stopped by my university on my vacation to
Okay.
go pick up a T-shirt for myself because I like to go pick up, just like you, get your Calvin College shirt on. I got my Eastern shirt on.
Very nice.
Yeah, there you go. Which nobody can see that, dude.
You can.
Yeah, I guess that's what matters. Um, I walk into the shop and I ask, "Hey, do you have 2 kids' shirts?" And I only really wanted to purchase one shirt because I knew that only one of them would wear the shirt. Do you see what the
Okay.
problem here is? The problem is that I really only want to have only one of them will really wear an Eastern shirt. The other one will not. However, if I do not return to the car with
With
2
two.
shirts, and in your case 3, you're jacked.
A little bit.
You understand what I'm saying? And here's the worst part. A day later, she walks up to me with the shirt. So the little one got the shirt that I knew she would want, and she loved it. The other one got the shirt and went, "Oh, thank you, Dad," blah, blah, blah. Came to me a day later and said, "Dad, you can give this to my cousin because I don't like this shirt at all." I'm like, "What? I don't know what to do." It is utterly perplexing, right? Like, I end up in these scenarios all the time. I've got to get 2 for the 2 of them, knowing full well that I've just made a $12 extra purchase because the other one really isn't going to want that shirt.
Yes.
I seek knowledge from you. What? Help!
What do you want?
I'm just jacked.
Parenting is expensive.
That's a parenting mistake. There is
Not a
no
mistake.
mistake. It's a parenting trap. You can't get out of it.
Or
Talk to
there
me.
are times as a parent where you don't buy something for all 3. where
And
You say, "Hey, when you're this age, you get this, and when you're this age, you get this." So you get a T-shirt,
yeah,
and
that makes sense.
you get a keychain.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense when you're saying, all right, this one gets the car. Right now, you get to have the luxury of the 10-speed.
Right. I'm not saying it gets any easier.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that
Yeah,
the
you're not buying 3 cars.
No, and when the children get older, they aren't necessarily any happier with it.
Oh.
All right. Let's talk
Rescue
about
bots.
rescue bots.
Transformers rescue bots.
So tonight we're doing Transformers Rescue Bots. It's really just rescue bots, isn't it?
I think it's branded Transformers Rescue Bots as I saw it. I thought I saw that on Netflix. I think initially it was Rescue Bots, but I think they're not dropping the Transformers name for sure.
Okay. All right. So for the listeners, the show we're looking at is Rescue Bots. It is a Transformers vehicle, no pun intended there. The Transformers, which probably most people are generally familiar with, alien robots that can also transform into various vehicles. And in the old cartoon, Generation 1, which Dave and I watched when we were in junior high,
G1,
right about
yep.
the time when it was no longer cool to be watching cartoons, and we were watching cartoons
But we were
anyway.
watching them anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sneaking Transformers into our lockers in 8th grade. Yep.
Standard story, good guys, bad guys, Autobots, Decepticons.
Yep.
So, fast forward to today, there's a number of spin-offs. One of them is Rescue Bots, which we're going to look at today. I would say that Rescue Bots is sort of how do I want to say this? It's sort of like a younger version of Transformers.
Yeah.
So you've sort of taken the general concept and you've made it more younger kid friendly. You've made it much more. You've talked about puppets in the past. It's more puppet like. You've taken the weapons out of their hands. In the old cartoon, in the movies, they carry around big guns and they shoot each other and they've got swords and they get down to some serious combat.
Yep.
In this version, they're pretty calm. The general gist is that there are a small handful of Transformers. They are on an island for some reason, and their mission is to hang out with this group of humans and do basically rescue stuff.
Yep.
So for parents that maybe have had kids that have watched Rescue Heroes, it's sort of that flavor, that they're going to be hanging out, waiting for the bell to ring, and then they're going to go out and be nice to people.
Yeah, so the plot of this particular episode, just to try to condense it a little bit, to give you kind of a bearing where we were, we watched a Season 3 episode 2 called The Big Gamer.
Yes.
In this episode, basically the Autobots or Rescue Bots are set up to do a race. In this race, an unfair thing happens, and Optimus Prime decides, hey, to even the odds in this race, I'm going to transform into my primal mode. And once I transform into my primal mode, as anybody knows, if you're a Dinobot and he transforms into a primal mode, which it actually turns out to be a dinosaur, which makes him more of a Dinobot at that point. And there's some legacy stuff here too, because as we know, when you're in Dinobot form as a Transformer, you're going to lose control eventually. And this is in essence what happens to Optimus Prime. He loses control, and for some reason on this island, there's a dude that's like this great safari guy, and he says, oh, this is my opportunity. I'm going to capture Primal Optimus Prime. I'm going to take him to my safari location, because they actually kind of get into the safari term, and he decides he wants to hunt Optimus Prime.
Yes.
That is the synopsis of this episode.
Tell me what you liked.
Yeah, so I do like the animation in this case. The more I watched it, initially when you look at it, you think, it's kind of cheap, but it turns out there's a lot of computer stuff behind it, so it's really smooth.
Okay.
If I were a younger viewer, I would totally dig this. In fact, let me back up. My daughter loves Rescue Bots. My nephew loves Rescue Bots. I like, it's kind of funny, we just kind of walked away from Inside Out, but there are some of the characters in there that have over-exaggerated personalities.
Yes.
Right, once again. And I think they're played really well, except for... Yeah, they all play well. They're like what was happening in the show. Sure, I like that they're heroes, right? I like one thing I walked away with is I love the fact that it's kind of a villain of the week. It's not consistently Decepticons are nowhere near the picture here.
Correct.
It's just the Autobots dealing with the problem of the week, and they're obviously a very popular theme. They're problem solvers.
Yes.
One thing that did throw me off a little bit, a twist that I wasn't expecting, was, and you wouldn't even see this on adult TV, one of the Autobots suggests, hey, let's do actually some testing to fix this problem with Prime, and he actually they actually resolved the issue, but the one Autobot's like, no, I want to do further testing. I want to make double sure that this is going to work. And I wasn't expecting that. Usually, we've got to resolve, and it might not work, but we're going to do it anyway because we've run out of time.
Correct.
And that actually didn't happen.
Correct.
So I did like that.
Yeah, it's pretty vanilla, I would say, in terms of content. I mean, there's a general lack of... They've taken the guns out, but there's still I don't know if you would call it a theme of violence. There's still got to be conflict in order for it to be interesting. They've sort of replaced the guns with, like... What are they shooting with? They've got, like, water cannons and...
Well, in this episode...
Sort of got this sort of energy wave type stuff.
Right. In his primal form, he basically shoots sort of like a Godzilla fire blast. That's like sound.
Right.
It's very benign, right? Like, the Autobots just got hit by the weird sound from Optimus's mouth.
Yeah, as you said, and there's sort of cursory problem solving, teamwork themes, minor levels of discussion of sort of science and math, sort of the idea that you identify a problem, you work through a solution, you hypothesize some things, that sort of stuff.
There's some jokes, too. There's like 2 jokes.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what they were. They're like like the 2 Autobots are making funnies.
Yeah.
I didn't laugh.
When they were... Okay, I thought of you we have to do like reminders to people that pick up our podcast at this point. So Dave and I grew up together. We went to school together. I don't know if you remember this, but you went through a phase, it may have been in junior high or in high school, where when someone else would say something that was funny, or in this case, someone attempted to say something funny.
Okay.
And you didn't find it particularly funny.
Funny, right?
You didn't find it particularly funny. You would sort of deadpan look at them, and you would say, humor.
That was me.
Do you remember this?
Oh, sure. I was channeling Spock. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. It was sort of like a mocking sort of. Today you would say, "Oh, I see what you did there," but
yeah, I know. At that time, it was
saying, "I see that you attempted to be funny and you failed."
Yeah.
What other concerns? What didn't you like about this?
So, I'm very conflicted here, Todd. Because my number one driver here is it's not really a critique of the show. I mean, as we continue to watch more of these shows, there are like parent spidey sense that goes off in my brain, like, wow, the marketing is really slick in this show. I said it. I said the marketing, the curse word, but I'm like, what's unique about these robots? They actually do transform into their toys. Like, they are bar none. That is the toy that you get, and if I go to Target tonight and I get Dozer, I'm going to get Dozer exactly like that. And the reason I know this is that Augie's got every single one of those toys.
Yes.
And they're really cool.
Almost like that's a coincidence.
Yeah. Like, in our day, the Transformers, like, they didn't, like, we get the toys, like, that doesn't look like Ratchet. Ratchet looks like something else in the cartoon. Right. But in this case, they've done a fantastic job of surely emulating those toys, right?
Yes.
I couldn't help myself, again, as a parent, I can't help myself but think, gosh, they're taking on a third form. I can hardly wait to go to Target with my kid and get that third form, because I don't know this for sure, but I'll bet you there is some sort of primal version of Prime on his way to Target right now.
Could be.
And that... So going back to your point, it's boring.
Yes.
When you and I were watching the Transformers, it is good versus evil, but there were a lot of unique elements. I feel like the IP, they don't know what to do with it other than they know how to market with it.
Right.
And that is a huge concern. It's like, yeah, it's fun to watch, and I just, ugh. I just feel like you're just, again, it's like 22 minutes of you're just selling me these robots.
It's a commercial.
It is a commercial.
It's a commercial for toys. which is not necessarily unique to this. We see this in a lot of shows
Sure.
where there's crossover. I think what is interesting is that, there's always been elements of merchandising, but I don't know if it really came on the scene as powerfully as when you and I were growing up with Star Wars.
Yep.
They really figured that out with Star Wars. Star Wars turned into this merchandising monster to the point where I think that they would create shows. When we were growing up, they'd create a show, and then they'd create merchandise afterwards, which is why when we watched Transformers back in the day, and then they tried to create the toys, they sat down, they went, oh man, it's hard to create the toy to make it look like the cartoon.
Right.
Now it's almost like they've done it in reverse. They
I
created
don't-
the toy.
to
They
be
created
honest with
the
you,
toy first.
I want to be really careful here. I'm not exactly sure what their marketing plan was.
Right.
Transformers is kind of weird because initially there was a lot of cross-Japanese, cross-American stuff. So I think there were actually Japanese toys that they went, well, this kind of looks like Ratchet, right?
Right.
This kind of looks
It was
like
adapted.
Ironhide. And so there was some, yes, it was adapted. So I think there was some merchandising. They just were not accurate with it.
Correct.
And certainly when Star Wars came along, I mean, there were toys before that, like, hey, there's a Star Trek toy, right? And you can get Spock and Kirk as dolls, but it was never as accurate as it is today,
Correct.
right? George Lucas comes along and says, bar none, we are going to make a Luke figure, and it's going to look like Luke, and kids are going to love it, blah, 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 right?
Right.
And it's going to totally line up with their fantasies about this movie.
Right. And I feel like with shows like this now, you sit down and you come up with the marketing plan first,
Yep.
and then the cartoon sort of comes later as a way to sell, which shouldn't surprise us, but I think that is sort of the warning to parents that this is kind of it is a dumbed down version of Transformers,
Mhm.
which is intended to sort of get the younger set in, so that as they grow, they can move on to the other levels of cartoons, move on to other levels of toys and games and all that kind of good stuff.
Yep.
So this is a young people warning. This is a marketing plan.
Yeah, I think the mistake in watching this show, again, this is not a fire and forget show. I think what you're going to get back is, Lord, I don't want to be critical of what's happened in my sister's household, but Augie's going to want those toys.
Right.
And you know what? And parents are going to buy toys. That's just the way it's always going to be.
Right.
But I'm going to say is that if you're going to invest in this show, you're probably going to end up investing in some of these toys.
Right.
If you're not interested in any of those toys or their kind of their marketing plan, I would suggest turning it off. I mean, here's another thing. Another counterpoint to this is that Hasbro actually has My Little Pony, and My Little Pony has been fantastic, and they've been selling that line. And so My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, yeah, that's correct, is incredibly creative, really well done, off the rails, always fun to watch, and it's great television. And something like that could happen for Transformers. It could be a whole different ballgame. Instead, it's just paid by the numbers, and I think that's the problem.
Yeah. I think one other thing that I was thinking about is that one other mistake people might make is assuming that just because there's the word rescue in the title automatically means that it's somehow educational, and
Yeah.
that's rescue is a pretty strong word. It can be a little manipulative. Anyone that is involved in rescue, we always say it's sort of a generally positive thing. So that means, and most of the time it is. Rescue professionals are often doing
Right.
positive, helpful things.
Yep.
So I don't want people to watch this show and think, oh, well, it's rescue, so therefore it's sort of like a really clean PBS type show. It is
Right.
clean, but it's also a little bit of a throwaway.
Yeah, again, I mean, it's funny that we're pinging off the rescue concept here, but, I remember Lassie's Rescue Rangers,
Mhm.
and what's so different about cartoons then, it was strictly about that cartoon.
Right.
And I can't get away with that. Yes, and there were commercials, and yes, there were toy commercials that happened in amongst Lassie's Rescue Rangers, but it was all about creative people doing something, trying to push the boundaries with the cartoon. And that is not what that is here. So I'm repeating myself.
It's okay. All right. Final thoughts?
I've given you my final thoughts.
Okay.
And that is so what I would say is it's not fire forget viewing. If you are okay with them really kind of watching a 22-minute commercial, and these are the toys that you think are right for your girl or boy, then by all means, right?
Right.
Then it becomes fire forget viewing.
Right. It is a merchandising package. So.
Yep.
All right. Well, don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Parent Mistakes.